Hello and welcome to the Humble Brag Podcast. I'm your host, Nate Mendel, and I'm joined today by my friend, Motty Surkis. Motty, thank you for joining. No, really thank you for joining. A guy like you, your busy schedule. I mean, to carve out an hour to talk to me. I feel so grateful. Yeah, but it's great to have you here. I'm going to give some context about Motty, and then we're going to get into the fun stuff. Motty grew up in ultra-Orthodox New Square, born and bred, I believe, right?
Yep.
And I actually have a nice handful of friends from New Square. He's one of many. New Square really breeds like the most tamima dig, the best, the cream of the crop.
You said it.
I always say if they stopped fucking them up, the potential that comes out of New Square is unmatched, and it has something to do with the way they're teaching in New Square. Now, I'm not getting into all the other politics, Jewish politics, but the kids coming out of New Square are, I don't know what the English word for idle is. Not innocent. It's almost like a mixture of innocence and purity. But anyway, it's a reflection, and it reflects out in their character. So I have a bunch of friends from New Square. Mutty's one of them, but Mutty's an interesting one because he's no longer part of the community, no longer living in the community, and he's actually become a pretty serious runner. I'm talking about athlete level. He's doing marathons and races and various other things that we're going to get into. So that begs like a very serious question. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
What the fuck? Seriously. And so somebody listening might think what's the big deal? Who cares where you grew up? You're running now. Great. But as we know, people who grow up the way that we grew up, or in places like New Square, you're expected, the status quo, the expectation is that you should be sitting in Yeshiva right now in Talmudic studies, right? So when you have a 30-year-old or a 30-something-year-old that's an athlete runner, it doesn't fit the little boxes made out of ticky-tacky. And there's a story behind it. So what the fuck, Mati?
So I guess we'll get to the story, but first off, let me tell you, thanks for having me on.
My play.
Yeah, it's a little new to me speaking into a mic in front of a camera.
I forgot about the camera. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. It's all new.
But I do appreciate it, I have to get more comfortable doing it. So this is one way of getting comfortable.
Yeah. If you're going to do what I think you're going to do in the coming months, this is a good way to break you in.
Yeah.
But give us some background. You don't have to go too deep, but how do you really, the bottom line, how the fuck do you come from New Square and get to where you are now with what we're about to talk about and what you're about to do? How does that even happen?
So I guess I always had in me some kind of extremism when it came to if I did something, I had to do it to the extreme. Sometimes I got it done, sometimes I failed, but because I come from a huge family.
How many?
You sure you want to know?
I'm
ready. You ready for this?
I'm ready to choke.
So I have 16 siblings, so we're 17.
Wow. And I thought I was big at 11. Fuck.
So I guess coming from that big of a family, if you want to stand out, you have to stand out. I feel like that had something to do with it.
Did you feel like you always did things to stand out?
I guess so. In a way, yeah.
It's interesting.
I mean, I have this shyness to me, I don't want to stand out, but in the other way, if I know that I can do something well, I want to do it. I want to do more than the average person does, when I started running for the first time, before I even started running, when I decided that I'm going to start running, I wasn't okay with just training for a 5K or whatever. Most people, when they start off running, their first goal was to run a 5K. To me, when I was contemplating in my head if I'm doing it or not, to me, it was based off of will I be able to run a marathon in 5 months?
Jesus fucking Christ. The first time I ran was 5K. You dragged my ass out there, forced me to do 5K, I never ran a mile, and there it was 3 miles, and I'm still stuck at 3 miles.
No, we'll change that soon, whatever.
But I get it now. So you're saying when you thought about running, it was
If I'm able to run a marathon in 5 months, then it's worth the challenge. Otherwise, I'm not even getting into it,
All or nothing.
basically.
You think that extremism or that personality has anything to do with the way that we grew up or the way that you grew up? Or is it just personal to you? Because we grew up in these ideals of all or nothing. Everything we always did was all or nothing. It was always black and white. It was their way or no way, right? So kind of rooted in that a little bit.
Yeah, I guess it had like I would say the shyness has more to do with like where I grew up than the extreme, like doing things to the extreme probably has more to do with like growing up in a big family and having to stand out. That's how I think about it. But like it could be both, like parts and parts, you know?
It's an interesting observation. It certainly is. So you grew up in New Square and you're talking about doing a marathon, but you basically left the community at what age? I think it was in your 20s, younger 20s, you would say.
So, okay, to me, I can't even like point to exact time when I left the community, because to me it's like you leave slowly. You leave very gradually in stages. So like what stage do you consider leaving? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you mean like when you had like one foot out the door where you're leaving New Square, hanging
Yeah.
out with people, right? Well, when did that start? When did like going out a little bit and hanging out on the outside start? Teenage years?
So I never fit into the like from side of the cookie cutter side, meaning like I was never like this bocher that was like jumping by the tish and whatever, you know, like
Right.
that. And that is a sign in New Square. If you don't go to the tish and you don't go to the Prentice and whatever, like you don't go, if this does it is not like your number one focus, then
You're the black sheep.
you're basically automatically to the other side.
A tish, by the way, just for our listeners, is like literally means a tish in Yiddish literally means table, and it refers to a huge table that ultra-Orthodox Hasidim sit around when Friday night, I guess Friday night and Saturday night. Friday night, you sit in Prava, you sit in, what is it called? It's Kumsitz, I guess.
No, it is basically the Rebbe eating his meal and all the Hasidim watching him eat.
Right. So everyone goes to synagogue, you pray, you go home and eat with your family, and then what do you do afterwards? Friday night, you go back to the shul where the Rebbe's eating, and the Rebbe has this drawn out extended meal. Everybody gets around this huge table. We're talking about hundreds of people, probably maybe even thousands. I don't know. I know I used to go to like Vishnitz or Nikolsburg Tish. Vishnitz would have thousands of people. So we're talking about a mega, it's a bunch of tables put together with bleachers on the side of them. Had bleachers?
Yeah, yeah, of course. That's what I said. I said before, Prentice.
Pranches is bleachers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the Hasidim sit around and you basically watch the Rebbe eat, and he throws little tidbits of his food in the crowd, and everyone wants to lick a piece, eat a little chunk out of his food. Yeah, it's this whole dynasty type of bullshit. But that's basically what a tish is. So after the meal, families go sit by the tish, and if you find yourself like Mati's describing in your teenage years, that you're already a little bit of that rebel, you're not buying into that status quo, you're not that typical type, then they already have kind of like an eye on you or an impression of you that you don't fit in. You're sort of a black sheep on one degree or another. So you're basically saying that
I was still like completely religious. In the beginning, I still loved the place. Only love, you know, like I didn't see any bad things. Like when someone would basically talk badly on New Square, I would defend them. But because I didn't exactly fit in, I was perceived as a black sheep, yes. Now, New Square itself has Yeshiva Katana, which is...
I guess it's like well, it's a form of high school, but there's two parts of high school, I would say. So
Yeah.
it's the lower part, the initial part of high school before you go to the higher part of high school. I don't know if there's an English equivalent, but or you could say it's like high school and then college. Yeshiva Katana like refers to high school, and then Yeshiva Gedolah is more like
Basically,
college.
in New Square, the system works that when you're like about 13, 14, bar mitzvah, the next age grade, you go into Yeshiva Ketana, and you're in Yeshiva Ketana for 3 years, and then Yeshiva Gedolah starts. Yes.
I think so, yeah.
So New Square has their own Hasidus, and basically they have yeshivas all over the world. Wherever they have a community, they have their own yeshiva, only for Yeshiva Ketana. And basically the boys that come out of New Square, if you don't fit into the mold, or like some parents do want to send their kids out a little, like this, basically to see a little bit of like life outside, also to get comfortable, like living in a dorm or whatever. It's an experience, and I guess they see it as important too. Although a lot of things,
Some parents.
yeah,
Most don't. Some
no.
do.
So they have a system where they basically send boys out of New Square out to the square yeshivas around the world. Borough Park, Williamsburg, Montreal, London, Israel.
And they do this systematically.
Yeah. And then you come back for Yeshiva Gedolah into Square.
You got to experience the world. Now you can come
You got
back.
to experience the world means basically you got to
Another
see
building.
You got to see a different building, because like basically they keep you locked up even when you go away, like they keep you locked up in the system. You don't get to see much. But
So were you one of those? They
I
sent
was sent to London.
you?
I had a sister there, so I guess I don't know, that made
What age was that?
14. I was still 13. Let me think a second. Yeah, when I left New Square, I was still
So that's
13.
pretty quick. After bar mitzvah, 13, 14, they send you to London.
Yeah.
Okay. And how were you over there in yeshiva?
Well, I actually liked it. It was like a little bit like different, change of scenery.
You fit in? You were learning good?
Yeah. So I had this like in between personality. Like I wasn't very rebellious in yeshiva, but like I did have some learning disabilities, I guess, that like I loved learning about history and stories and stuff like that. But writing was a challenge. Like I can't write still to this day.
Writing anything?
Yeah.
English or Yiddish or Hebrew?
English or Yiddish or Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
So when it came to tests, if it was a multiple choice test, I aced it. Always. If it was a written test, then I was lost. And basically I had anxiety all week long that like I'm gonna have to do this written test, and I knew that I couldn't write. I was embarrassed about it. Like, so after I got into every new grade, like we moved up a grade, new Rebbe, I knew everything, new teachers. I was always embarrassed that like how they're gonna take it, that I don't write. They always adjusted at some point and started giving me like verbal tests, and usually I would do pretty well. So I had certain things that weren't like cookie cutter, like I didn't fit in completely, but like I still managed to.
You weren't like a complete rebel.
No.
You were just a little bit different.
Yeah, basically.
I could relate to that fear, by the way, you talk about. It's this innate fear, this conscious, strong fear throughout the entire week. I had that in preschool and elementary school, because we always get tested on Fridays at the end of the week. So the entire week, and mind you, we're talking about Hebrew studies, stuff that's foreign language for, I guess you could say, I grew up in an English-speaking home. So they're teaching Bible and all kinds of Talmudic stuff, and you're supposed to memorize the stuff and know it inside out, and you're going to get tested on these Fridays, and it's always dreadful. And the closer you get to Friday, the more dreadful it is. And by us, I think it was the principal who may have done the testing or something. It was this big fear growing up, and if you continue to fuck up or it's not good, like you get beat up, you get smacked up, or there's some other forms of punishment. But yeah, absolutely, it was like a serious, and it's almost like you work all week long because you fear that Friday.
Fear that Friday. Yeah.
Unreal. Unreal.
So yeah, I didn't get beat up very much because, like I said, I was always like flying under the radar. I was like
Also in New Square.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was basically being rebellious, but like always like hidden enough, like quiet enough that it didn't make big waves, you know? Just enough to get it out of my system, but like not enough to get beaten up for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're in London, you're 13, 14. How long did you stay in London?
So I stayed in London for the first 3 years. I was in Yeshiva Katana, which is the
The
first
first
half.
part, the first half of high school, as we called it.
Yeah, yeah. And then all the kids of my age came back to New Square for the second half because all the yeshiva there's around the world, whatever other places where Square has the yeshivas, they only
Where
have
they have their compounds.
they only have yeshiva Katana, and then everyone comes back to New Square under the umbrella of the like to be up close and
It's
personal.
yeah, it's a chut. It's like a honor. You
Honor to
made
be
it. You're gonna
yeah.
you get to be next to the Rebbe.
Yeah. So because I didn't completely fit in with the like system, I guess you could call it, they suggested that I go to a different place, Yeshiva Gedola.
Outside of the
Out of
confines of the New
yeah,
Square
yeah,
compound, New
yeah,
Square bases.
yeah. So there's a yeshiva outside of London. It's about an hour outside of London. It's called Hitchin. The town is called Hitchin.
Okay.
And they have like a yeshiva. It's a country. It's like a camp in the country somewhere, you know, in the middle of nowhere. Not a human in sight for a half hour in any direction.
It's like in the country, real
Yeah, yeah,
country.
yeah, yeah. They suggested that I go there. The yeshiva that I was in, like, suggested that I move on to the next one. I go to that place.
What age was that? I guess about 16, 17?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, because I think Yeshiva Gedola is about is like when you're turning 18 or something.
Yeah,
17,
yeah,
18.
yeah.
Yeah.
You get married out of there.
Makes sense. Okay, so you went up to
Hitchin.
Hitchens. Christopher Hitchens, okay.
Yeah, that was like more of a Satmar type yeshiva. It's like a mixed type of yeshiva, mostly Satmar type. Not necessarily Satmar, but basically boys from America, boys from Israel, pretty much like mostly America.
Okay.
Boys that like didn't fit into the typical yeshiva, get sent off to camp. And officially the idea is that it's outside of the city. It's like a country all year round. So you don't have any distractions.
Yep.
Exactly. So, and it's also the idea. I think the idea behind it is that most of the boys there are like one step out of yeshiva already. So like it helps them because you don't have the opportunity to run away because like you're in the middle of nowhere.
It's another way to keep you locked in
Yeah,
for a little more time.
yeah. Because you got to find a ride into the city, or you have to go with the train, which takes an hour. It's not like I'm not showing up to yeshiva today.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, so what happens from there?
So that yeshiva, I didn't like. It was a lot worse for me because I wasn't used to the style. You know, like I was used to New Square boys. New Square boys grow up a certain way. Like everyone is, it's a certain style, and I think Satmar is like a lot more in your face.
How did I start this episode? I said New Square kids are the most
Timid.
idle. I don't even know if timid's the right word, because idle is actually a positive word.
Yeah,
Idle
but
is a mixture of, it's actually a character trait where you're almost like respectful, humble. There's like a couple descriptions that basically make up the word idle, and you see it very strongly in New Square. I always said, yeah. Satmar, I always wondered if it had, one of my theories is that why is Satmar so intense and violent? I was wondering, and I thought it may have something to do with the way they grow up. And, you know, in Satmar, you have the two sects, right? Mm-hmm. And they fight with each other. The rabbis themselves, and then, of course, the Hasidim, the followers. They rip each other apart. And they grow up with that. My theory is because they always grew up, all they ever knew was, us versus them.
And
They
it's
grow
also,
up
you
with,
grow up, your number one role model is the Rebbe.
right.
And Satmar Rebbe was always like a fiery person. Like he would go out and fight Zionism all day long, you know, and stuff like that.
Okay, so that's another good point.
New
Yeah.
Square, the Rebbe is very like, everything is like quiet and, you know, it's like, whatever. When he gives you the hand, he only gives you like a tip of the hand.
Soft touch, soft
And
speech,
yeah,
humble,
like
blah, blah, blah.
always like a low tone and whatever.
That is so interesting.
yeah,
You really see it in all the kids growing up out of these communities.
100%.
I was like Williamsburg and Monroe are the worst.
Yeah.
Intense, violent. And I think it really has a lot to do with that, with with the stuff that we're describing. Okay, so you're saying a lot of the boys in that yeshiva were from
Mostly
Satmar.
Satmar type, and even if they like, even not Satmar, whatever, it was like a mixture of Brooklyn, Monroe, whatever. So I didn't vibe with that style, you know, like so. And besides, it was like literally hell, you know, like you basically lived there like disconnected from the world, and they were like cheap, so they used the oldest boys in the yeshiva as like
To do chores.
basically to control the younger boys. Like I was put to sleep every night by someone like 3-4 years older than me.
Yeah.
And if I didn't go to bed when he said go to bed, he would take the fire extinguisher off the wall, hold it on by the pipe end, and whip it around like a fan.
Oh, I don't mean to laugh. It's so sick.
So I don't know. I couldn't stand that yeshiva, so I lasted there for 1 year only.
Nice. So you're about 18 or 19, and now you're back
Coming back, yeah.
in New Square.
Now, New Square does not take you back once you leave the fold.
Right. There's a whole re-entry process.
There is no re-entry process. To be able to live, you want to hear
But you
examples?
didn't technically leave the fold. What do you mean leave? Like, you left the fold because you were in a different yeshiva.
A different yeshiva
Wow.
system. Yeah. So just the opposite, you know, if you come from completely OTD or anywhere in the world, they will gladly accept you. They'll be happy that they just like found this
A gold nugget. Yeah, and I know about that hypocrisy,
Yeah.
that irony.
Yeah. But they won't accept you back. They won't accept you into their yeshiva because like officially you're tainted. Like you have ideas in your head and we don't want you associating yourself with our boys. You can always come and be like a guest. You can never come live with us. You can't live in New Square only if both your parents are from New Square. Meaning like a young couple gets married.
And if you haven't walked off the forbidden path.
Yeah. If you grew up in New Square and you get married to someone outside of New Square, you have to go live outside, whether you're like the chassan or the kala, whatever, It doesn't matter. You always have to leave because they won't allow outsiders to come live in.
Yeah. Cult rules.
Yeah. And the same is with the yeshiva. Once you go to a different yeshiva, they won't accept you back into their system. Today, they won't accept you in, even if you grew up and went through yeshiva, they can anytime decide they don't want you no more. But back in my days, it was still like, as long as you were in the system, they wouldn't send you away. But once you left, you couldn't join back in.
So you come back and you're not really accepted in the way that you were before you left. So what starts happening from there?
So my father starts looking for yeshiva for me, and I was kind of done with yeshiva. So like every yeshiva that he didn't bring me many offers, but I remember like I wasn't very enthusiastic about going to yeshiva, so I didn't push it. I just let it like slip.
You let inevitability take place. At that point, did you already have one foot out? Were you like hanging there out in Muncie or leaving New Square, or were you just
I was
still
still
in New Square?
very much in New Square, but like I would go Saturday nights to the movie theater with like my friends.
Okay. So that's where it was starting.
Yeah.
You're like leaving New Square to go do some fun things.
Yeah. But like I was still growing a beard, pious and everything, you know, like being very much the like on the streets you wouldn't know that I'm going to the theater Saturday night, but yeah, that's what I did, yeah.
I believe I only met you. I think I only met you in your mid 20s. How old are you now?
31.
So I think I met you in your mid to lower 20s, but there's still a 3, 4, or 5 year gap between what you just described and when I met you. So what happens
So
there? You go work?
so yeah, I started working for my brother landscaping company.
Okay, yeah, I remember that. Okay.
So I hung around with the same boys that you were hanging out with, but like I was hanging out with them in New Square and you were hanging out with them outside of New Square.
Okay, so that makes sense. So you went to work, and a couple years into work, that's how you started getting more and more out, and that's
Basically, yeah.
interesting. At what point? So you're working for a couple years, but you're probably still sleeping in New Square
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
years.
For years, for
At what
years.
point? At what age do you actually leave and go live outside of New Square?
So I left probably when I was like 25, 26. I left New Square completely. But by the time I left, I was completely out of the system. Like I wasn't keeping Shabbos or anything. It was just basically living by in my parents' house.
Right. It's not like your OTD journey started when you moved out. You were already completely detached, but you were just still sleeping by your mom. And
Basically,
yeah,
yeah.
cool. So you're 25. You have a job, hustling like a fucking beast, raking in the dough. Truck drive. Didn't you go from landscaping to truck driving?
Yeah. But basically with something in between here and there. But yeah, basically. I started driving for KJ, poultry, eventually, and then I moved out. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know which came first and which second. But yeah, anyway.
Interesting. So then what happens? So that's a 25. Yeah, 25. So what happens over these years? I I don't want to guess for you, but I suppose you continue to evolve and educate yourself and all the fun stuff of living in the real world. How long ago and how do we get to running? How does that introduce to you? Let's get into the juicy stuff.
Uh, skipping ahead, many like a lot of stuff, but like yeah, it's
You could go
basic.
back. I mean, you
No,
could
yeah, no,
share
I don't
anything.
even like. I don't even know what to start with, but like basically, I've tried once going on a diet, and it was basically I started logging my calories and whatever, and I knew that diet is hell. You basically have to fight your nature to you want to eat, but you want to lose weight because you're getting overweight. So I wasn't like I was
Why you were very overweight?
no, so I was always on the borderline of basically overweight. I was always a little bit overweight, but like
Okay.
but as I started turning like 28, 29, I was starting putting on pounds. That's what,
That's yeah.
yeah.
You think it's not gonna hit you, it hits you.
Anyway, so I tried once going on a diet and I knew that it was torture. I lost the weight that I wanted to lose, but then I went back to normal life, and half a year later, I see I'm back to where I was, and I see like people struggling all over. Like it's not easy dieting.
So I'm very familiar with these phenomenons, and I actually agree with you. I believe that first of all, the diet industry, a huge portion of it is just a scam.
Yeah.
It's just like enlargement pills is a scam. There's just a lot of industries that we know
Yeah.
is just a scam industry. That's not to say that a diet can't work for an individual person, that
No,
some
it
diets are good,
works. If you're
but
on a diet, it works. But the point is that dieting is like fighting. You have to constantly fight nature to put on weight because, like, you want to eat good stuff. There's always good food around. I
yeah,
mean, here,
yeah,
some people don't have food.
it's a constant struggle. Yeah.
So I've tried dieting. I saw that it's gonna be tough. If this is the life that I'm gonna have to live, it's gonna be a tough life. And I was like, my biggest problem was that I was a couch potato. I would basically binge watch TV shows. I would come home, sit down, watch episode after episode after episode.
So that was life. You're in your high 20s working and then sitting on the
And
couch
then
and
sitting
doing
on the
nothing,
couch. Yeah,
eating
yeah, yeah.
popcorn and potato chips. Wow.
So I have friends that are active. I was never like at work. I was pretty active. I lifted boxes, like I had to lift boxes constantly for work. But once I was done work, I was a couch potato. I was very intimidated of like the gym. I tried once walking into a gym. It was a scary thing for me.
No,
Yeah.
it makes sense because when you grow up in New Square and you are timid, you're intimidated by
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
that
yeah.
requires, expression.
No, besides, I walked into the gym and like everyone walking around with their like pumped up chests and like shorts, and I'm like, first of all, I was uncomfortable wearing shorts.
Oh,
No,
of course.
number two is like, what am I doing here? Like, how do you use these machines? Like I was basically uncomfortable learning this lifestyle. I had heard from people who did marathons, and it was always like, wow, this person did a marathon. Like it was something like, wow, in my head, but like it didn't talk to me at all. But then I have a younger brother who did Bike for Chai, which is a fundraising cycling event. You have to fundraise a certain amount of money to be able to join the challenge. Basically, they do like 100 or 200 miles in 2 days of cycling. He did that challenge, and basically I was like really impressed. But then the next year he signed up for it again, and I was like, wow, I gotta do something too. But like getting into biking, it's an expensive sport, like if you wanna, like I said before, I don't do things half-ass.
Right.
If I'm gonna do it, like if I'm becoming a biker, like I need a serious bike. Serious bike costs money.
Oh, yeah.
And then I decided I want to do the New York City Marathon. Like this running, I can go out and buy a sneaker for $60, a running sneaker.
What year was this?
This was 2018 or 2017. Yeah,
So
yeah,
about 2-3
2018.
years ago.
2018, summer of
Nice.
2018.
So it's pretty new.
Mm-hmm.
It means you're about 2 years in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I decided, it was like beginning of summer, probably still spring. I decided I am doing the New York City Marathon. So first, I'm not telling anyone because like I'm
If you
not
make a fool out of yourself.
Yeah. So first, I download I think Runtastic. It's called app.
Runtastic?
Runtastic. Yeah, I downloaded that app. Checked out a few apps that like have these running programs and whatever. And I realized that Runtastic has a training program for a marathon, and I'm like, first I'm signing up, setting up, putting on in my goals. I want to run a marathon at this and this date, whatever. And they tell me it's possible, like go from zero, like from couch potato to marathon. And I had 5 months till November.
You put those parameters in there?
Yeah.
That within 5 months you
basically they ask you your activity level, how active are you, what do you do, all kinds of questions, age, weight, and then you tell them your goals, and they set up a program. So if they're providing me a program, then I made the assumption that it has to be possible, because
Right.
otherwise they wouldn't give me the option. So first I started running for 2 weeks with whatever the program told me to do that day, I did. And I saw that like I keep on progressing, So it was tough the first 2 weeks, but I saw that I'm keeping up with the program. So I realized this is possible. The second I realized this is possible,
That was it.
I signed up for like I looked up organizations to be able to get into the New York City Marathon. It's like a very tough it's very hard to get in. Like millions of people sign up every year to get into the New York City Marathon.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How many get approved?
So there's a total amount of runners of about 50,000 runners. And a portion of that is through a raffle. Portion is through international travel or whatever. They have like different programs. The most guaranteed way for me to get in, I couldn't rely on a raffle. and I think it was too late for the raffle. Or you can qualify if you run at a certain speed. I can't start running and go in 5 months to qualify by speed. I think also you have to qualify a year in advance. So I signed up. I looked. They have a whole list of charity partners that if you fundraise a certain amount of money for a charity, you get a guaranteed spot.
So that was your in.
That was my.
Interesting.
And I looked through the list, and I saw that Chai Lifeline, the same organization that my brother did the fundraising for Bike for Chai, that same organization they're affiliated. They have spots. I right away went to Chai Lifeline's website. I saw they have a whole website just for the running, and I signed up that I want to run whatever it was. Registration wasn't even open at that point. It was just like you can submit your information.
Why was that early?
Yeah, 5 months is pretty early. You can submit your information, and they will let you know when they start accepting applications. So right away, I knew like I'm running New York City Marathon. Like I still have to figure out exactly details, but yeah, I'm definitely running New York City Marathon. Eventually I signed up, and I was basically accepted. I got a spot.
How much money did you have to commit to raising?
That year, the minimum was $3,000.
Not too bad.
Yeah, I ended up, actually it was 3,600, I think, or whatever, something like that. I ended up raising like $6,000.
Yeah, that's not too bad. But it weeds out, every Joe Schmo who wants to do it.
It weeds out people that are not serious about it.
Awesome. So you had 5 months to prepare.
Yeah. Now, that's how I got started. I started off, it was basically a combination of me wanting to get to stay in shape, trying to just like prove myself that I can do something like that. But it wasn't like to get into a running lifestyle. I didn't then think that this is going to become my life. This was like in the beginning a one-time thing. Like I'm going to run New York City Marathon, maybe I'll run after that too, but like
boy.
Yeah.
And it sucked your ass in. Woo.
Got me good.
That's how it does it. That's everything healthy works that way. Everything good. Start out innocently.
Yeah.
That's how it gets you. That's how it fucking gets you always. But that's good because it's good as long as it's a healthy activity. And in this case, it's a healthy activity.
Yeah. Like when I ran the first marathon, like I wasn't sure that I'm gonna continue running, but like at that point, I was like, I really wanted to continue running, but I wasn't sure if I had it in me to continue this as a lifestyle.
You're saying after that?
Yeah. So like I knew that I liked running already. I wasn't sure if I can make a lifetime commitment.
Now, a marathon refers to a certain distance, right?
Yeah. A marathon is 26.2 miles.
How did it go, that first one? Was it like deathly or like you ate it for breakfast?
So it was pretty tough. I mean, the first one was pretty tough, but I did the training. So the last training I did like 19 miles, I think, and I was supposed to do a 21-mile run, I believe, or like something similar. I'm not exactly sure, but I didn't complete the training. The last run before the marathon was supposed to be, let's say 21, 22 miles, and I did a little bit less. So I knew that I'm going to have a tough time when it comes towards the end. But I also knew that I'm not running to win the marathon, like to get in first. I'm not going to get in first. I'm going to complete it. So even if I can't run 26 miles, let's say I get stuck by 23 miles, I will walk to the to the finish line. And I wouldn't beat myself up because like I knew that that's a possibility. I was okay.
You did it alone or with someone?
No, the first one was by myself.
Wow. So towards the end, did you actually end up having to walk?
So towards the end, I actually did have to run, walk the last few miles. It was brutal, but I finished. After the marathon, I went out the day after for like you're supposed to go out for like a short recovery run in order to basically release your muscles a little. So that was the last run I did that year. Basically, the day after I took off, I'm not running today. I have to recover from the marathon, like the second day after the marathon. And then the winter came.
Oh, you fell into that cycle, and
Yeah, like
then you stopped running.
I stopped running. And over the winter, I started missing the feeling of running, but it was too cold to run outside. I didn't have the right gear to run outside in the winter. And I was still intimidated of like signing up for a gym. I didn't feel like whatever. I didn't need it. I didn't want it. But yeah, so basically through the winter, I built up that feeling like, wow, I miss those runs. That the second the weather turned like a little bit back to summer, spring, I started running right away.
Endorphins are addicting.
Yeah.
I did some multi-day hikes on the Appalachian Trail, and I basically had the same thing where when I come back, it's like a love-hate. You love it and hate
Yeah,
it and all
yeah,
that stuff, but then you come back, and weeks go by. Like I don't want to go live out in the woods, but 2, 3 months go by, all of a sudden you just start missing it again. Like,
yeah,
oh, that was
yeah,
good. And there's something about hard work and exercise and things that are healthy, especially in the athletic department, that does that to you. It pulls you. But most people, that's not enough. For most people, that's not enough. So you're saying for you it was actually enough. And when it came, you got back in, and now we're talking to a serious runner because of it.
yeah. Once I started running again, I knew that I like this is what I'm going to do. Like I'm running for life. It was basically
It's crazy.
I'm never stopping again.
This was like your entrepreneurial moment, like the light bulb. Boom! I am running.
It wasn't the entrepreneurial like light bulb, but it was basically like I was sure that this is what I'm doing, like at least a few times a week for the rest of my life.
You and Forrest Gump. Just run and never look back.
So I signed up again for the New York City Marathon through that like same organization, High Lifeline, and I decided that like they have 3 marathons that they do this running program. They have New York City, Las Vegas, and Miami, 3 marathons, and the other ones, if you fundraise the money for them, they will pay your ticket to fly out and they will hook you up with a hotel. And I really wanted to do that year, all three. Basically, New York
3
City.
marathons in 1 year.
Yeah, New York City,
Fucking psych.
Las Vegas, and Miami. But like, I couldn't fundraise enough to get all three. But yeah, I decided to pay out of pocket to fly to Vegas and do the Vegas one. Miami, I didn't get to, but
So you ended up doing 2.
yeah, 2 weeks apart. The Vegas marathon.
That was in 2019?
That was, yeah, 2019.
This last
End
year.
of 2019, yeah.
Because now I think you eat a marathon for lunch. On the right week.
I mean, like for the past 2 months, I did at least a marathon every Sunday.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Then it was like you wanted to do a couple a year. But not even it. But it also shows how quickly people progress.
Oh, yeah.
When you're serious
So
and dedicated.
that's what I saw already when I started running the first 2 weeks in the beginning, that I went from not being able to run at all, meaning like I was literally dying after 5 minutes, to running 5Ks and running an hour at a time, that I realized there's something to this, that like every single time you go out, you get to do more. Like obviously, whatever your goal is, that is what is going to be tough. If your goal is to do 2 hours, an hour and a half is going to be somewhat easy. I mean, obviously, if you do the training, the last half hour, it becomes tough. After 2 weeks, I did like hours of running. 3 weeks, I did hour and a half. And I realized that like I get to move forward with a half hour each week or every 2 weeks. So I knew right away that this is like, it's definitely possible, because I saw the progression rate, that it will definitely be possible. And yeah.
Your rate of progression is very commendable. I think we have the app to thank for it. Who made Mutty? What was the app called? Yeah, Runtastic made Mutty. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So now you're doing a marathon every Sunday. That's besides for all the runs you do during the week. My gosh, I just ran 4 miles yesterday and my knees hurt me right now.
I used to have those.
Oh,
Now look,
gosh.
it basically honestly believe that whatever your goal is, you like. I know some people tell me that they can't run more than a half an hour. They can't run more than 45 minutes. I honestly believe if you really wanted it bad enough, you could. Basically, have to want to do it enough. Like there are things in my life that I want to do. I just don't want it badly enough. At some point, I wanted to go to school to get my GED, and I would have to go to night school basically while keeping a job. So after 2 weeks, I checked out because I felt like I don't have the time. I can't spare 2 hours a day. I don't have the 2 hours a day to be in school now. But now I spend 2, 3 hours a day running.
Basically, you're saying you didn't want it enough.
I didn't want it enough.
I tend to agree with that. I'm so happy with my running now, even though I'm doing 3-4 miles at a time, because I was the guy in the gym, doing those kinds of works, and I
Yeah.
was physically fit. But I didn't have great cardio. I never ran really, and like typical, like anyone, it was just hard for me to run past a couple blocks. To find yourself getting closer to 30 years old and not being able to just carry yourself in a jog for more than a couple blocks is bad news. If you're health conscious, like we are,
Yeah.
well, we are now, but I was always health conscious in that sense. So when we went to Rockland Lake with a group of people, and I was pushed to keep up and do my first run, which was 3 miles or 5K or just over, that was huge for me. And and I think I've done as high as 4.5 miles. I don't have huge aspirations. I don't necessarily personally love running. I'm more of a biker. I've been biking my whole life. But I get that, and I completely agree with that. It's if I put my mind to it, sure. Last time I ran, I found a good pace. I felt like I could do 7 miles if I wanted to. And it wasn't breath, it wasn't heart, it wasn't my feet even. I just felt like I don't have patience. And that's how I feel. But that just shows that if you do really want to, you could do it. For me, going from 0 to 3-4 miles is great.
Let's put it this way. Physically, any healthy human, like anybody that is, meaning you're not missing limbs, you're not like, you don't have a disability, whatever. Even when you do have a disability, you can overcome it. But like I'm talking about if you don't, it's all in your head by the end of the day.
We're all physically capable. It's a matter of working up to it.
Yeah.
But there's also, preferences. Some people like
Yeah.
different activities and different sports. But I always believe that it's important. Cardio, having a very healthy heart is important. Obviously, muscle and being able to handle your body weight-wise is also very important. That's why push-ups, pull-ups, just these basic things are very important, even if you're not going to the gym. But more than anything, heart. And if you're young, you don't see it yet. But as soon as you start getting into your mid and higher 20s, you'll already start realizing, oh, shit.
Yeah.
It's not a joke what the older people were saying. It's all
It
about the
becomes
heart.
reality. It becomes reality.
So quickly. It's like, oh, fuck. You can't eat sour sticks all day or, Pringles and fucking bullshit.
I found the cheat code.
Run, and then you can eat whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like they say some UFC fighters after a fight they'll eat like a cheeseburger or something, right? First of all, because they've dropped weight and all that, but
at this
but I
point-
get that idea.
At this point, I'm not on a diet. Like I eat anything and everything that comes to my, like anything that lands on my plate, I eat. But because I need to burn so many calories, I still end up losing weight. And I'm not saying like, yeah, just do this and you can eat whatever you want. Obviously not. If you can control your diet, you're even better off. Controlling my diet is not easy for me. So gives me a certain advantage.
Yeah, I get it.
Now, I still constantly try to move in the healthy direction, but I'm not where I need to be.
You're able to get away with eating honey cookies for breakfast.
Oh yeah.
Because you do so much running.
Yeah, 100%.
I have something similar now with the intermittent fasting. Now, granted, like you said, I'm always moving towards health. I don't necessarily fiend or want garbage.
Yeah.
But because I'm doing intermittent fasting, I could eat it and my body's not affected like it would be if I was a couch potato.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. Wow. So that was 2019. Now we're in 2020. Literally, you're running a marathon a week plus all these other 10, 15, whatever mile, 5, 10, 15 mile runs almost every day, if not every day. That's huge. I think you said your goal was maybe 75 a week, 75 miles a week, or 100, something along those lines.
So in the beginning, right after my last marathon, I knew that wasn't enough for me anymore. And
Stepping into the big leagues.
yeah, like running a marathon once a year. It's not like twice a year. Ain't gonna cut it. There are these like ultra marathons, like people run 100 miles, people run 150, like I think the biggest one is 240, like Moab
Oh,
240.
yeah. And then there's what is it, Iliu, the guy that broke the 200
Yeah,
thing.
Kipchoge.
Huge. That's just groundbreaking.
Yeah. So like I don't have the experience and the like the body that comes with years of running to be able to compete in like speed challenges. So like my point is that like when I flip that switch that running is not enough, like running a marathon once a year is not enough for me anymore. My next goal can't be to win the marathon because like I'm a realistic person. If that's not possible, I'm not signing up for it.
Right.
So what could I do? So first, I set my goal. I want by November of this year, be at 100 miles every week, running 100 miles every week.
That is a lot. Jesus Christ, that's so much.
Yeah.
100 miles a week. Are you running every day or taking one day off?
So I have a training sheet that I made myself, like a breakdown of the miles by the days. And in my training sheet, it's only set up for 6 days a week running. Sometimes more, sometimes less, one day off.
So that's more than 15 miles per run on average.
On average, that would be when I get there, yes.
Okay, that's pretty serious.
Yeah.
Pretty serious commitment. How long does it take to run 15 miles? I guess it takes
So
about...
right now, my average pace, not like when I do speed or when I just go like even easy runs for me is usually in the 9.5 minutes per mile. So that's like almost 10 minutes per mile. So when I have to calculate how long a run is going to take me, I just do 10 minutes per mile.
The other day you did about like 12 or 16 miles, and I think the pace was 8.5 minutes.
Yeah, I do have faster. Like I do have faster in me.
You do that on purpose?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But you can't do it every day. You can't go like and run speed every single day. You're supposed to train, like break down your training into one day you're doing long runs, one day you're long easy, one day you're like doing long, and towards the end you pick up speed. And then I have certain runs that I do like interval training. Like I run, then slow down, run, slow down, run, slow down. Then there are all different types of runs. But like normally, most of like my normal runs, I run at about a 9.5 minute pace. So yeah, so 15 miles, I just do 15 times 10 minutes. And basically that's how long I figure it's going to take me. I usually get done like a few minutes early, or I take a break in the middle for a few minutes. But that's how I calculate how long
So
it's
you're
going
carving out, all
Yeah.
said and done, you're carving out 2 hours every day. And that's just for the run. Do you run out of your house or do you actually go somewhere?
So depends on my mood, depends on the timing, but like I like both. I like being able to just run out of the house. And I also like going to the lake where it's quiet, it's flat, no hills, ups and downs, that's basically,
Okay.
yeah.
Because with the drive and then the shower, that's
Yeah, hours.
It's a part-time
hours.
job. It's 3-4 hours of your day.
Right now, my average is 13.5 miles a day, I think, or 12. No. Actually, the average, meaning like the amount of miles I do divided by the days of the week, it comes out to 12.5 miles per day, 7 days a week.
Okay.
So that's at least 2 hours of running. Move aside the getting ready, driving to the lake. If I go to the lake, it takes me 20 minutes drive each way.
That's what I'm saying. It's a 3-4 hour endeavor every day that you do it.
Yeah.
It's a serious commitment. It's like a part-time job.
Yeah.
That is so crazy. Amazing though. Amazing. So what's in store? What's up ahead? I mean, you're saying this is you now. This is your life. This is who you are. From landscaper to truck driver to
Yeah.
runner, This is how
You would be
stars are
surprised.
born.
You'd be surprised that running and truck driving are related.
You need patience for both.
You need patience to be with yourself in your mind, listening to music or listening to podcasts. You have to be in one place for a long time. And running is the same, even though you're moving, your muscles are moving, your body is moving.
It's you and your mind.
Is in one place.
It's an interesting thought. My brother's a trucker.
Ask him about it. I don't know if he ever ran, so I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
he used to run in the military.
Yeah.
I think they snack on about 10 miles for every breakfast or something like that. About 10 miles a day or something for breakfast. But I think he come back, truck driving, slacked off. But he's a good trucker.
Yeah, listen, he's
You have to be able to be with yourself, cope with yourself.
Yeah.
So if this is the new you and like Jesus fucking Christ, fuck everything else, then what the fuck, dude? Like what's next?
What's next? So
How do we conquer the world?
how we conquer the world. But first of all, for years, I would be stuck like working. I didn't like have a drive to be my own boss. I never had these ideas in my head. I'm not like, I don't want to conquer the world in that way. I don't know.
There's nothing wrong with saying you're not a business person and you have no interest in business, or at least on that very entrepreneurial level.
The grind of having to figure out what I want to do and make it happen, like hire employees, doing like covering bills every day. I don't want that pressure. I don't want to have to. I never wanted to have that pressure. Like if I don't find a customer tomorrow, how am I gonna pay my employees? Or like,
I feel you. Look,
yeah.
I'm in business. I'm a business owner, so I feel you. Look, some people are born for nature, or I should say, born to run. Because born to run is a serious thing. But no, but what I mean is, some people are outdoor, achieving type of people. It's completely different than being a business achiever.
Yeah.
But they're both, they both have their.
I have a drive to conquer the world, but not in business.
Right.
So I felt very stuck driving a truck. I was making a decent paycheck, but I didn't feel like I belonged there. Like I didn't feel like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, sit on a truck. I don't know, like it wasn't enough for me.
So if you continue to pursue your running aspirations, how can it become a career? How can you make money from it? How can you stop driving the truck? How can it become something legit? And I don't know. I don't even know the running scene. I don't know where you go from here.
So I have certain ideas in my head that I'm not really like completely ready to share. But first, what I am ready to share is that running is now officially my life.
So you're saying you got some plans. You got something stacked up.
Yeah. But yeah, running is definitely the number one thing in my life. I mean, after family and whatever, when you ask me now, what do you do for a living?
You say that you run?
I run.
Even though you're still doing some side work or whatever.
That's not what I do for a living. That's what I do to pay my bills.
That's beautiful. No, I get that. Like, that's like, you know what I mean? That's your life now. Even though you're not making money from it.
Yeah.
That's still what you do. I get that.
And I would always be embarrassed. People would ask me, what do you do for a living? I hated what I was doing so much that I was embarrassed to tell people what I'm doing.
Right.
Now, even though I'm not doing anything better for money, like I'm still driving a truck when I have a job.
No, I get that. Look, what you do for a living doesn't have to have monetary value right now. I get that. Even though when people ask, they want to know, like, how do you pay your bills? None of your fucking business.
Yeah. No, but like when
run.
you hate your job so much and you're embarrassed to tell people what you do for a living, and it comes up like here in America, I don't know, like it's not, by the way, it's not this way everywhere. It's only here in America that the first question usually is, what do you do for a living? It's not a common question in the world.
Interesting. I didn't know that. It's also if you're saying it's regional, it might even be specific to certain regions within America. Because I do know that New York, tri-state area specifically, is very, very, very business oriented and money obsessed and all that stuff. The pursuit of wealth in tri-state is very, very prevalent. If you go to the country, I've lived out in the country. I know this firsthand. If you go to the country, you don't see people chasing money and the glitz and glamour, the dream of being the next Mark Zuckerberg, like you do in New York.
Yeah.
In New York, you experience that on the street. Why do you think everyone's so ticked off and so rigid in New York driving down the FDR? They cut you off. Everyone is chasing the $1 million, that price tag. You don't feel that in I would say a majority of the United States. You don't feel that. So if you're saying that question is regional, maybe it's even specific to a specific region within the country.
Yeah, it's probably a lot worse here. It's probably a lot worse here in New York than it is in, let's say, I don't know, country somewhere. But
maybe it's a cultural thing.
There are places that it's even like inappropriate to ask. If you ask it, they will look at you like.
I reckon that if you're in Italy and you ask someone what they do for a living, it's going to be a little awkward for a second. What do you mean what I do? I sit on my couch and chill.
No, but like it is an acceptable question in some parts of the world. So like I always felt uncomfortable with that question.
Interesting. Because you felt uncomfortable about what you do, but now you don't. Yeah. Now you don't. I always thought, come to think of it, I'm used to answering the question, but I do agree that it's a little, I always felt like it was a little bit of a weird question. And I'm trying to think what kind of people would ask me that question and who wouldn't. I really wonder if it's cultural. Very interesting thought. So anyway, now you do what you love. And you're saying you have a road plan, you have a plan for how it could turn into, how it could pay your bills, basically.
I mean, I have hopes and dreams, and obviously I have ideas that I'm going to try to be able to make this a living. So number one is I'm running more and more, and I'm going to start recording my runs, doing videos, and basically try to share a little bit of my life.
Vlogging, social media,
and fundraise for some organization. I still have to.
Oh, I suppose you could do that. If you do fundraising, you probably get a percentage. You can sponsor you. I'll tell you what.
I don't know.
The bigger picture is if you're really, really keen on running and you love it and that's your life, you're better off living a life that is not money centric. Now, granted, you have to live, and also at some point you'll get older. Stuff like that might matter more. Granted, all of that, but you will live a better life than a business person who's overly focused on business day and night with stress and got his money. You're gonna live a happier, healthier life.
Ever since I decided that this is becoming my life, and basically I'm gonna have to make this my number one source of income at some point. How exactly? I didn't have like an exact idea of how I'm gonna make it happen, but once that light switched, my life was like better already, you know?
Life changing.
Once I made that decision, and I was like, I wasn't happy, not because I didn't have a good job. My job was a decent pay. I was happy with the pay. It was the fact that I didn't feel it's enough for me. That's not what I want to do for, I don't want my life to be, what does Motty Surkis do for a living?
You're a nature boy.
Who is Motty Surkis? A truck driver. I don't mean to talk down on truck drivers.
But you didn't identify with that well.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't feel that that's me.
You're a fucking nature boy. I think of it as nature because like running on the street is you being very in touch with nature. That's why I think of these things in nature. But it's athletics. So athletics speaks to you, speaks to your soul. I think it's fucking amazing, and I'm really looking forward to following your journey. Is there anything else you want to get off your chest before you go for a run? Which I know you're itching to do right about now. This is the time. Look, there's no time to brag. There's no time to brag like right now. I mean, this is the Humble Brag podcast after all.
Oh, so first of all, if you listen to this podcast, go out and look up my social media. because I'm gonna need followers if I want to make it into, if I want to be able to pay my bills
Right.
through running. So yeah.
If the plans you have are going to pan out, it'll depend on followers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're on Twitter, you're on Instagram, you're on Strava, you're on TikTok. I don't know what's happening with TikTok,
Yeah.
but for now you're on TikTok.
Yeah, I haven't posted much there, but yeah.
Facebook, you're everywhere.
Yeah,
Motty
we're gonna
Surkis.
start, like, we're just gonna start posting this week. Just started, like, setting up the accounts and everything. Nate hooked it up. You know?
I know people who know people. And on some of the platforms, the name is Running Adventurer or The Running Adventurer. Because who is Motty Surkis? If you have to give him a title, he's The Running Adventurer.
Yep.
Fuck it. Yeah, so check him out. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Strava. Is there another out like Garmin or anything? They're not social.
It's not very
You just
picked
use
up.
that.
I use Garmin because my watch is a Garmin watch. It tracks it, but like nobody's following anyone on Garmin.
Okay.
Yeah. They don't have. Yeah, everyone, like runners, mostly runners, cyclists. They're like, Strava is basically the number one social network for athletes, running and cycling, swimming maybe too.
Yeah, I've been using it. It's good shit. All right, so that's where you could check him out. I'm excited to follow the journey. If you want to see what he's doing, what he's up to, check it out. Yeah. Thank you for joining, and thank you for listening. Until next time, peace and love.